Hi, welcome to episode 221 of the Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy Kira on Twitter and Instagram. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, and that's where this episode and every episode show notes will be. I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea, where I sell my handspun yarns and knitting patterns. Hi, how are you? It is Monday, May 1st. The sun is shining, and boy am I having a Monday. I hope that you all are doing well, that you had a good weekend. I got a few things done this past week that I'm excited to share with you. My Monday is progressing. Really, the highlight of the day was when I made myself a bowl of ramen for lunch. I always bring it back into my office to eat it while I'm kind of looking through email or Instagram or whatever. And I turned around my chair to go looking for a skein of yarn, and the back of my chair hit the bowl and spilled the whole bowl of ramen all over my desk, all over my planner, all over the floor. So that was my exciting lunch hour today. So it's now about 3:45 in the afternoon. I'm going to chat with you a little bit and then try and squeeze in a run before dinner. And we will hope that my day of interesting luck changes. So, how are you? I think I'll just get into things. I don't have a lot to report. We had a very quiet weekend. I have one finished object, which I'm very excited to show you, and not much progress on anything else. However, I do have a few things to show you that I'm going to be casting on shortly. So let's start with the tea. Today I am drinking it in my National World War I Museum here in, which is located here in Kansas City. They built it after, shortly after World War I, and they have an amazing poppies exhibit. It's like a permanent exhibit that is in there, but they also have traveling exhibits that come and go, and there's a big monument and a park, and it's just a really amazing place to be. Anyway, so I bought one of their, I think it was the centennial of the Great War. As you can see from the dates, I can tell you. Just read the mug. And so I really enjoy this mug. And today I am drinking Dragon Claw Oolong tea. This is from Nepal, and it came to me by way of Tea Runners. And it just says, this is called Dragon Claw because the tea leaves, as they open, they look like claws unfurling. And then it says, the leaves are dark green, but the cup steeps to a beautiful amber color and a nutty toasted finish with the sweet tartness of apricot. I am an oolong fan. It is a little bit smoky, so it's not everyone's cup of tea, as it were. Pun, sort of, not pun, sort of literal. So I am a fan, and you can find them at Tea Runners online, or tearunners.com. The other thing is, for those of you who were fans of Nathan Fillion and Firefly, the company is run by Jewel State, who played Kaylee, and her husband, and they also do monthly boxes. So that is what I've got here. And this one was from a while ago, so I don't know if they'll still have it, but they have a nice selection of teas, and you can either subscribe to the monthly box where you get, I think, 4 1-ounce samplers, or you can just purchase tea from them. So yeah. So let's talk about knitting. I have one finished object, and it is the cutest darn thing you will ever see. I told you last week that I was going to potentially start a baby sweater, and it was the perfect palette cleanser. I chose Baby Vertebrae, which is by, I cannot remember right at the moment. I will think about it. It will be linked in the show notes. Well, it might not be linked because if I remember correctly, I think it might only be available on Ravelry. I can't remember. The newborn pattern is a free download, and then the other sizes are a paid-for pattern that has a variety of sizes and yarn weights, so it's a great, really comprehensive pattern. It is for basically what amounts to kind of a little shrug with a back on it. So it's a very open front cardigan. It's meant to kind of just curl around your baby who might be wearing a onesie, although you can make it up to, I think it does have up to some child sizes. And actually there is another pattern called Mama Vertebrae, which is if you want to make it for adult sizes. It has some things that I'm not sure that would work for me as an adult size in the way I like to wear my sweaters, but as a newborn sweater, it's great. I chose to knit mine in fingering weight, and all the sizes except the final one, I think, take just one skein of fingering weight. So it's a great, quick project, and without further ado, I'll show it to you. Is that not the most adorable thing you've ever seen? The eagle-eyed among you will spot that I did make a change in my yarn. So last week I showed you a skein of Superwash BFL from Hello Yarn, and ultimately as I started knitting it up, it wasn't super soft. It was nice sturdy sock yarn. It wasn't rough, but it wasn't super soft and squishy, and that is kind of what I was looking for in a baby knit. I will save the BFL sock yarn to make socks for myself because they'll wear like iron, and that is great. But I really wanted something super soft and squishy. And so I went through my stash, and I have no shortage of skeins of single skeins of sock weight yarn. And I was particularly looking for something that was superwash so that it can be washed. And I came up with a skein of Spun Right Round, and this is her superwash sock base, 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 400 yards to 100 grams in the colorway Graffiti Overlay. So Spun Right Round, sorry, I could get that out of there. Spun right round, and then this is the information on the back that I more or less just read to you, and this is the colorway. It is kind of a gray base with rainbow speckles. It's got pinkish red, yellow, orange, blue, purple, and it's really funny because I wound this up one night. I picked it out of my stash, I wound it up all while the light was fairly dim. The lighting in my house is not that great, and so I always wait to look at something in daylight before I'm 100% sure, but since I was just using one skein of yarn, like, it didn't really matter. It's not like I was trying to coordinate colors. So I wound it kind of in the dark, and I knit it kind of in the dark, and I thought it was just pink and blue. But when I knitted up, it had all these amazing other rainbow colorways, and when I brought it out in the morning sunlight, I was like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. So that was kind of a funny little thing. So I haven't weighed it. My guess is I used about 2/3 of the skein, and I have maybe 1/3 of the skein left, so probably 250, 300 yards. Not sure. Would need to, probably 250 yards. Would have to check that to be sure. But yeah, so it is a cute little top-down cardigan. Like I said, okay, so I should say this is finished. All my ends are woven in. It just needs to be washed and blocked. I finished it last night. And what I did was I started it kind of midweek. I think I started it on Thursday, and I knit it starts at the back neck and sort of is a top down with raglan shaping, and then you go back and do your ribbing around the outer edge, and then you have your 2 little sleeves. And the sleeves are basically straight knit. So I did the top all the way down to the sleeve separation on the first night. Then the second night I finished the body, and then the third night I did one sleeve. The fourth night I did the other sleeve, and then finished with the band last night. And so it is done. My ends are woven in. I just need to wash and block. In the future, I made the sweater to the specifications on the pattern. I think in the past I have made it a little bit longer, and if I were to make it again, I probably will make it a little bit longer, even though it would get caught up in the baby's legs just a little bit. I made this sweater in the 0 to 3 month size, and kids are not really mobile at that point, so I feel like if it adds a little extra warmth around the legs, if it's a little bit longer, I don't think it's really an issue. But is that not the cutest stinking thing you've ever seen? So everybody knows that you go through certain ages, at certain age levels you go through certain phases, and so I went through a phase where of course all of my friends were having babies, and then as soon as my friends were mostly done, my sister's friends started having babies because she's just a few years behind me. And it's funny because for the most part everyone I know has already had their babies, and now their kids are toddlers or elementary school age kids. And so I don't get to do a lot of baby knitting anymore. I mean, I could just make baby knits and donate them, but I don't, there was a period where I did a ton of baby knitting, lots of baby blankets and sweaters and all kinds of things, and I do very little of that these days. And so it was super fun to make something in 3 or 4 days that used up most of a skein of yarn. I mean, even though I potentially have enough left to do something with, theoretically I could probably make a matching hat or matching booties. I'm probably just going to toss this in my scrap blanket box or use it, you know, for other things. So more or less I sort of took a skein out of my stash, like it's not sitting unused anymore, which was lovely, and I have a finished object that is adorable and ready to go. And the funny thing is this baby isn't even due until September, so I'm way early, but it was such a fun palette cleanser. And stay tuned to a couple more projects, and I'll talk about this a little bit more. But so this is my baby vertebrae in the 0 to 3 month size, and again I knit it in Spun Right Round in a colorway called Graffiti Overlay on her 80/20 sock base, which means so a lot of sock yarn dyers do a superwash merino sock base, and I wouldn't say that it always means that, depending on how you want to take care of something, you may or may not want to machine wash it. Even just because it's superwash does not necessarily mean that it is super at being machine washable. However, baby clothes are often washed on delicate, often in cold water, with like a low tumble dry, and the baby is not going to be wearing it that long. So even if it goes through the washer and dryer umpteen million times in the first 3 months, after a few months the baby will have outgrown it and it will just be a memory and a keepsake. And so I'm kind of okay with that, and I don't think it's a problem that I used, that yes, it's indie dyed yarn. So if I were making it, well, to be honest, actually, I wash my socks in the washing machine. I don't put them in the dryer, and I wash them on delicate in a lingerie bag, but I actually do put them in the washing machine on a cold water cycle to wash my socks, because I feel like they get cleaner in there than they would in like just washing them in the sink. And I'm just a little bit lazy because I can do like 8 or 10 pairs of socks in the washing machine at a time and then lay them on a drying rack to dry. So I do wash superwash merino yarn in the washing machine often, and like I said, I just go with a delicate cycle. I go with cold water, and I actually, for baby knits, I do even recommend that they can dry them. I just say tumble dry them low. So, and that's often the care for baby garments, so it's not a big deal to throw this in with something else. So that is done, and it was a delightful, I cannot tell you. So I knit sweaters for myself, I knit sweaters for my sister's kids, who are still little people, but they're getting to be bigger people. And when I knit an entire sweater sleeve in about 2.5 hours one night, I was like, oh my god, this is addictive. Like, because I can see so much progress in such a short period of time. So anyway, that was my baby sweater, and I loved knitting it. Technically, I need to get back into some other responsibilities this week. So I have 2 knits that I am about to start. I think I talked about one of them last week, but I'll talk about it again. And because now I have the yarn. So, last 2 years ago around Thanksgiving, for my Nanny Swaymo project, I knit a pattern called Nydia by Vanessa Smith. And it was a top-down raglan, it was a pullover, and it was cropped. And it had a really cute lace stitch on it and some other details, kind of a lateral braid on it and some ribbing. And I knit it in a DK weight, and I really, really enjoyed the knit. It was beautifully written, and I really, really enjoy wearing the sweater. And since then, she has she has also designed it as a cardigan and released it as an adult pattern in cardigan sizes, but then she talked about releasing it in child sizes. And I was really, really excited because I was looking for something fun to make for my niece Roxy for her 10th birthday, which will be this fall. I know, I can't believe we're going to be in double digits. And so Vanessa announced that she was going to be doing a test knit for, I think she's calling it Little Nydia. And so she announced she was doing a test knit, and I applied, and I was accepted. And I think I mentioned this part last week, but I am going to be knitting one for Roxy. And the test knit is due before mid-June, so I have until like mid-June to finish the sweater, but it is time to get started. And so I had to order some yarn last week because I hadn't, I generally don't keep enough for sweater quantities for the kids, or if I have a sweater quantity, it's enough for myself. And so if I break it out and use it for the kids, then I'll have a skein or 2 left over, which is fine, but yeah. So I resolved that I was just going to buy yarn for them. And Roxy asked me for a teal sweater. She told me that is her favorite color right now, which is kind of funny because it's her mom's favorite color and it's one of my favorite colors. And my assumption is that she's kind of wanting to be like Mom, but it's fine. I love it. I was super thrilled. So I have knit for the kids before in Malabrigo Rios. Rios is a superwash merino from Malabrigo, and it is a DK weight yarn. And it is really lovely. I have made hats for them. I think I have made sweaters for them in other Malabrigo colorways. It is just a great all-purpose yarn. It's nice and soft. It wears pretty well. It is machine washable. My sister does machine wash the sweaters and they come out just fine. Again, the kids won't be wearing them forever. These are not garments that are going to last the kid, that they're going to be wearing on and off for 20 years. I mean, when I make my sweaters, I expect them to last a really good long time. The kids are going to grow through these in a few years, and so my sister will probably keep them, like I said, as keepsakes. And if not, she may pass them on to friends and family members, and that's fine with me. I just want the kids to get to enjoy them while they can. Anyway, so all of that is to say that I bought several skeins of Malabrigo Rios in Reflecting Pool, which is this beautiful teal, and I need to make my gauge swatch tonight. And so I'm going to wind this up and make a gauge swatch tonight, and by the time we speak next, I should have started that sweater. And hers is going to be a cardigan. I think I mentioned that. I'm knitting the size 10-12, because 10 to 12, because she is going to be 10, and I would like it to last for a couple seasons. And so honestly, I'm knitting almost an adult size small sweater is really what it comes down to. I needed to buy around 1,000 yards for the pattern, and honestly my own sweaters usually use between 12 and 14, so you know, we're getting close to adult size. When the kids, a friend of mine asked me how long I'm going to keep knitting the kids sweaters, and the answer is they will get yearly sweaters until they are done growing. Because part of the reason I knit them birthday sweaters every year is because their sweaters only last for a couple years. So even though I've knit them a ton of sweaters, they don't get to wear them all anymore. Once they are adults, my guess is I'll knit them sweaters as often as they would like, but not one a year, because they won't need that many sweaters. So yeah, so that's what I'm going to be working on this week, and that's just really fun yarn, and that's Malabrigo Rios. The other thing that I like about Rios is it's at a pretty good price point. While I love indie dyed yarn, these days indie dyed yarn is running $25, $28, $30, $32, $35 dollars a skein, and that's really expensive, particularly for kids. And so Malabrigo is still not inexpensive, but Malabrigo is $16 a skein, and I find that a little bit easier on my pocketbook to do a sweater for them. I could economize if I wanted to more and go with something like Alaray, or I don't actually use Cascade 220 anymore, but I know a lot of people who do. There are a lot of workhorse yarns that I could use. I find that Malabrigo gives me kind of the color depth. I love their kettle dyes, and it gives me kind of the color depth and sophistication that I like in the things that I knit, but also gives me kind of a decent enough price point that I can justify doing it for the kids. So that's what I'm working on here. I also bought a sweater quantity for Miles. I'm not going to show you that today. You will see that after I finish this sweater when I start on his. I have already selected a pattern, and I bought yarn at the same time as Roxy's because why not? So the next thing that I'm going to cast on is going to be another sample knit, and I am knitting a shawl. It is by Stephanie Lotvin, who is Telly Bean Knits, and I'm going to have to do some modifying to the pattern because I want to use a little bit more yarn than the pattern calls for. But the pattern is called Around Every Corner, and this is what it looks like. It is a triangular shawl, and it looks almost a little bit log cabin-y. I expect that, well, okay, I do know that the stripes are done in intarsia. It is a garter stitch shawl. The original shawl went with a background color and then 6 gradient colors, and what I have from Zen Yarn Garden is obviously another one of their gradients, and so I would like to at least get halfway through the gradient, and so I think I'm going to be trying to make this a little bit bigger and have a few more striped sections, but I haven't quite decided yet. So part of it I'll probably get into it while I'm knitting. So again, oh, you know what? Oh, yeah, that works. I was gonna say, I'll explain in just a second. Okay, so I am using a Zen Yarn Garden Superfine Glitter Fingering Weight Gradient. What this is it is a sock blank, or it's basically a fingering weight blank that has been dyed in a gradient, and this time the colors are blue, purple, and yellow. And then it goes back out to purple and back out to blue. And so I will be using this in the shawl. What I was going to say is that generally when I receive gradients, like this, the gradient starts at one color, goes to kind of a middle central color, and then goes back out to the first color. And so what I was going to say is that my plan based on the yardage in the shawl is to definitely go halfway through. So you'll get the blue to purple to yellow, or yellow to purple. I guess it will be blue to purple to yellow, because the shawl starts from the top down, and there isn't a good way for me to start in the middle. So, I mean, I could just snip it and pull it apart, but I'm not going to do that. So, I will definitely not get all the way through the gradient, because the project just doesn't call for that much yardage. And then, much as I have with the last few shawls that I've been knitting, I am going to be using the Superfine Glitter in the natural base. So I've showed you that a million times before. The Superfine Glitter is a 90% Superfine Superwash Merino, 10% sparkling nylon. It is dyed by Zen Yarn Garden, which is a yarn dyer out of Canada, although they can also ship through the United States, because they are literally like right across the border in Michigan. And so they can go, they have a post office box in Michigan as well, so that they can do US shipping and not have to charge US for international shipping prices. It's great. And then they have their gradients, and the gradient skeins are technically, they are, in this weight, they are 170 grams and 680 yards. So my guess is I will try and use about 340 yards, which will be right for what the pattern calls for, and I may make some modifications or try and go a little farther. We will see as I go on. I just need to get into it and see what I can do. I may try and make some modifications so I can use up additional yarn, or add something, add like an extra border at the bottom or something. I haven't decided. So generally when I sample knit for them, they give me a pattern, and I work from the pattern, and I produce the pattern as written. Sometimes they'll send me a pattern and say, hey, do you think there's a way you could kind of modify this to do something? And so then what I will do is I will write up whatever modifications I made for them, and you purchase the original pattern and the project kit from them, which includes all the yarn you need to make it, and then you will also get my extra instructions for how I made my version. So that's what we'll do with that. So that's the other thing I should be starting this week. So the final thing that I was going to talk about is, remember I said I was going to come back to that baby sweater? So I just started at my job in March, and I have known my bosses for a while. We're not super close, but because of the way Facebook works, this is such a convoluted story. So in order to add me to the company Facebook page, they had to be able to find me on Facebook, and Facebook sometimes makes that difficult. And so my boss, both my bosses actually friended me on Facebook, which is fine. We've been friends on Facebook for several months now. It's like almost since I started. And so I saw on Facebook actually, and my bosses basically run the company. And so I don't talk to them that often. Like I chit chat with them a little bit, but like in general, we don't know a ton about each other's personal lives. So I didn't see it coming, but my boss and his wife had a baby this weekend and posted on Facebook about it, and I was like, oh. Like I didn't know he was expecting. It wasn't something that had come up in the course of conversation. Usually we're just focused on work tasks. And I really want to knit another baby sweater. And I was like, oh, I can knit another baby sweater. They had a little girl, and it is their first little girl after 3 boys. So I am very excited. I went through and I looked through my skeins, because as I mentioned, I have enough skeins of sock yarn to, I don't even know what I have bins of sock yarn. So I went through to find another skein, because this is not enough to do another sweater out of. And it did occur to me that I could send this sweater and then just make another one, but no, I decided I'm going to make a special sweater for this baby. And I came up with a skein on my favorite base of hedgehog fibers. And I don't know if she dyes this one anymore, but this was always my favorite skein of hers, or favorite base of hers. This is a blue-faced Leicester and nylon skein. So it's 80% blue-faced Leicester wool, 10% nylon, 100 grams, 365 meters. It does say, it says hand-dyed using wash fast and light fast dyes, machine washable, may bleed for the first couple washes. So I will wash it, obviously. But I love this base of hers, and I almost never see it anymore. She has, her sock base is absolutely beautiful. It's really, really soft and supple. But I have a problem with every time I put it in a project, it snags, and I just have not enjoyed that. So I haven't really been on the lookout for whether she still has this base, because I bought this skein a long time ago. But anyway, this was a potluck skein from a long time ago, and the thing I like about the BFL base is that it's got a really, really tight twist. I don't know if you can see that, but it's got a really nice twist, and it does not snag, and it does not catch. And this was a potluck skein, so the base is like a grayish lavender, and then it's got pink and blue and yellow, and then all these little black speckles. So it will be very different from the one I just made, but also very similar in the sense that it will be kind of a light background pattern, and then lots of fun color splotches. So I am going to wind this up and get this on the needles tonight. It's funny because I had put the I finished that little sweater last night, and I took the project bag and the needles, and I put them on basically my photography station. It's just a flat tabletop with surfaces, and I had put it on there to put the needles away and put the project bag away, like back, so that everything was where it needed to be. And then this morning I just grabbed the exact same thing. So it's the exact same needles, the exact same project bag, and my skein of yarn, and this is ready to go, and I am going to wind that tonight and cast on another baby sweater. So I don't know exactly what I'm going to get done this week, because obviously I have lots of things happening. But I am motivated to knit, and I'm really motivated to crank out another cute little baby sweater. So the socks that I talked about, the green socks, those will have to wait. My sweater is kind of on indefinite hold, and that is both because I have other projects that I need to get done, and also because I finished the first sleeve, and I'm not sure how I feel about how it worked up. I'll talk about that more in another episode, but I'm okay pausing right now because I have to figure out what I want to do with that. And I think the conclusion that I'm going to come to is that the yarn is not quite right for the sweater pattern. I love the sweater pattern. I like the yarn. I won't say I love the yarn. I like the yarn, but I don't think they are actually well suited to each other. So I think I need to come up with something different to do with the yarn, and or find different yarn for that pattern. So that might get ripped, which is nice because I only knit one sleeve and I only did that little bit of color work, so everything can just come out the way it went in. But so that is going to be on pause for just a little bit while I work on some of these other things, because my goal is to get Roxy's sweater done this month, and then probably try and get this other shawl done this month as well. And of course the baby sweater I would love to get done this week and send it up to them. So those are, and I do have a chicken too, so it's a lot. I hope to have a lot of knitting time this week. We'll just see. So let me take a sip of tea. I'll show you spinning, which is real quick, and then I will be done for the day. Okay. So last week, I wasn't quite done with my spin when we met. This week I am done, and this is that gorgeous purple skein, and I really like it. It is not super, super, super soft. You could wear it next to the skin, but it is a little bit of a longer stapled fiber, and I know I have mentioned a million times, I love Corriedale for socks. I find that Corriedale wears really well. It's a little bit sturdier. It's just really great for handspun socks that will hold up and wear well, even though it's not like super, super soft, it's not itchy at all. So this would be a skein for that. I want to say I got around 300 yards, which would make like good sport to DK weight socks. And if you don't have super large feet, you could probably get it done with one skein. If you had larger feet, you could probably pick a contrasting color for heels, toes, and cuffs. And this will go up in the shop possibly today. I don't know if I'll have it up by the time this podcast goes up. I always say I will, and then I don't. And so I'm gonna not state that I will just in case I don't, but this will be going up in the next few days. It also would be fine for accessories or a shawlette, but again, it's probably only about 300 yards. So it's like perfect for some cozy, thick boot socks. So I will be adding that in there. And the dyer behind this was Kumasi on Etsy, and she has many lovely fibers. I have more fibers to spin from her that I will spin at some point in the future. So the fiber that I currently have on the wheel is Spine Tingler, which is sort of the New England way of saying spine tingler. And honestly, it reminds me of a very woodland kind of feel to it. It's got browns and kind of foxy colors, and then it's got greens and blues and kind of a, you know, like foresty colorway. So this is kind of what I've got here. Again, it's got like the browns and oranges. It's got lots of greens and teals and greens and grays, and a little bit of icy blue, and this bit of teal and swampy green that I love. This is half of the fiber. The other half is already spun into singles. My plan is to finish this one this week, and then get that plied and hopefully be able to show that to you next week when we talk. I don't have another braid picked out yet, but that's okay because I'll probably finish spinning this on Wednesday, and then I will ply on Sunday, and so I will be ready to start a new spin, and so I'll pick out something else to do next. This is destined for the shop, and this is organic Polworth, and it was dyed by Hello Yarn. It was a club colorway, but I'm not spoiling you because it was probably last June or July of 2022, so it's not super deep stash, but it's also not super recent stash. So that is what I'm working on this week. So I think that's all I have for you. I have a few more things on my list before I get done today, so I'm gonna get going and let you get going as well. I hope your weekend was good. I hope you are healthy. I hope that you are enjoying a beautiful spring week. We had our April showers. Let the Mayflowers come in and enjoy spring. I am not really participating in Me Made May. I do happen to be wearing a shawl today just because it was here and it was what I grabbed. And you know what? I didn't. I think this is the, I'm so bad. It's a shawl by D. O'Keefe. I think it's called Aspen Leaf. And what it is it's got a leaf pattern down at the bottom, and the rest is just garter stitch with kind of a slip stitch detail so that you end up keeping kind of stockinette stitches on the front. I knit it in worsted weight yarn, which makes it lovely. I can't remember whether it was written for worsted or DK. It was one of the first forays I took into knitting worsted weight shawls, and I really, really love it because it's a nice shawl that has a lot of warmth. I have plenty of shawls in fingering weight that are very decorative but not super warm. This one actually is very nicely warm, so if I get chilly, I can wear it. It is definitely, it's my wingspan. So it could be worn either, you know, the traditional way around the back, so you can have warmth over your shoulders, and to be honest, this is generally the way that I wear it at my computer. When I'm wearing it a little bit more for fashion or under a coat, I like to sort of do the bandana thing. I don't mind that it's really long and even that it's a little bulky because it's nice and warm. And my house is, it's not cold out by any means, but we have to keep the AC on low because it has started getting humid already. So my house is a little bit chilly, and so I do wear it for warmth. I knit this in, they're sadly no longer dyeing. It was some yarn from Spirit Trail Fiberworks, which I got at Rhinebeck many years ago, and it was in the color... Yes, I got it at Rhinebeck. I was trying to decide if I got it at Midwest Maryland Sheep and Wool, which is coming up this weekend. But no, I did get it at Rhinebeck, and it was in the colorway Zalti, which is this kind of just bright, it's like an electric blue. It's really, really beautiful, and I just fell in love with the colorway. And to be honest, I knit it into a sweater, and the sweater did not work, and I did not like wearing it, and it is one of the few times that I have ripped out, rather than just give it away or do something else, it is one of the few times that I have ripped out a sweater and gone back to the drawing board, because what I really, really wanted more than anything was something out of this yarn, and I gave it new life in the shawl. I knit the shawl a couple years ago, and it lives on the back of my chair at my desk, and so I wear it kind of day in, day out if I get chilled at my computer. So it is one of my favorite things. I will drop into the show notes the particulars for it. Like I said, it's patterned by D. O'Keefe. I don't know if she has her patterns off Ravelry. I will have to check. I knit this years ago before Ravelry was an issue. I will put the details into my show notes. If it is only a Ravelry link, I won't link it, but I'll put the details there, as I do. None of the links on my blog posts, at least for the last couple years, have had links to Ravelry. There are always links to anywhere else you can get the pattern. So until I see you next week, I will say happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye.